What is up, Money Tribe? Mike DeMazzo here to welcome you to the How You Money series. On this interview, it's with Mike from Financially Alert. So click that like and let's send it.
So my financial journey really started pretty early on. My dad was a certified public accountant, and he had a practice where he would help businesses and individuals with their taxes and some of their finances. And so I was just naturally around numbers from a very early on age. I remember going into his office and didn't have a clue what he was doing, but I would play with his adding machine, play with his spreadsheets and things of that nature. And secondly, what was even probably a little bit more impactful was I had two uncles that did very well for themselves, both in business and in real estate investing. And what I noticed was they didn't really work in a traditional sense. They had total freedom. They were always hanging out with their kids and doing whatever they wanted. And I was like, how is this even possible? My parents are going to work and I see everyone else's parents going to work. So I was like, how do they do that? And it really got that curiosity going. And I was like, I want that when I get older. And that really kind of spawned that whole journey for myself into learning more about personal finance and how to grow wealth ultimately. So my number one money hack has to be investing in yourself. It's something that is interesting because we spend so much money on other things like doodads and fun toys and even going to the gym. And that's great. I mean, I think you should be physically fit as well. But we don't spend a lot of money on ourselves, like on our personal development. And the reason why I'm passionate about that is because I really believe it's the foundation to how we act in our lives. And usually our actions are what produce the results in our life. So let me give you a quick story. We all hear about real estate investing. And let's just say there's Johnny and his parents decide to buy a real estate investment when he's 10 years old. And they buy this house and they get some renters and they go in, they fix it up, and the renters come in, they seem great, they're getting monthly payments. But lo and behold, they're actually running a meth lab in one of the side bedrooms and the whole house burns down. Then the dad and the mom are like, oh my gosh, real estate investing sucks. This is like the worst thing ever. And Johnny just, hears all this, he sees all this. What do you think are the chances that Johnny's gonna become a real estate investor when he grows up? Chances, as you might assume, are pretty low, right? And so the thing is that our beliefs really dictate our actions, and our actions really dictate our results. And so with personal development, it really gives you the tools to understand what our core beliefs are, and ultimately, if we want to, change them. And from there, we can find inspiration from other people and change our beliefs to get the results that we ultimately want. So that's why I'm so, whenever people say, what's the best money advice you ever have, I always start there. I always start with the mindset. So the people that really influence me and are inspirations in the personal finance space are bloggers like Financial Samurai, Retire by 40, and Choose FI. Jonathan and Brad are fantastic on their podcast because they really are so inclusive of other people, and everyone's definition of financial independence and their path to it is so unique. So I really like their message in the sense that they really honor our own personal preferences in that regard. Secondly, I like Ramit Sethi. He's got a great book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And what I like about his message is he's really more focused on the income generation side of the equation, which is where I really kind of resonate with. For FI, you can reach financial independence through, cutting and saving, and that's, definitely always a portion of it. Or you can really blow through the income and make that so large that the expenses don't really matter. And so I believe the income generation's, a lot better simply because it's unlimited. And with the expenses and savings, you can only cut so much. You can, there's only so much where you're really kind of constricting. So I really like Ramit's message in that regard. So the one thing I spend a lot of money on has to be food. Going out to eat and eating at nice restaurants. And so that's twofold. I like it and my wife likes it because we like trying new things, new flavors, new cuisines. We just love it. So that's something that we value. But secondly, on top of that, we spend a lot of money on going out to eat because it provides a lot of convenience. So when I was growing up, I remember washing tons of dishes. And I remember telling myself, you know, when I'm older, I'm gonna have enough money so I never have to wash any dishes ever again. And lo and behold, I still wash dishes, but not as much as I did when I was a kid. And so, you know, when my wife's done with a long day at work, I'm taking kids to activities, going out to eat just provides us that convenience of not having to do the prep work and the cooking and the cleanup after. And so that's why we decide to spend our money in that way. The best advice I ever received was to be authentic. And of course, this is a little bit of cliche, right? Be yourself. But if you really take that to heart, I think that means really knowing your own values and then operating within that lane. And what I really found eventually was that when I started doing that, I attracted more people to me that had similar values, and I repelled people that didn't necessarily have those values. And life gets so much easier when you kind of know what your values are, you know your goals and purposes, and operating in that lane, there's less stress, there's more abundance, and so really living in that be authentic self is something that, you know, I try to do day in, day out. But I will tell you, it's hard. I mean, there's constant noise all around us with the media and friends and family giving you different ideas. But at the end of the day, you know, working on yourself, building, you know, who you are and growing forward, I think is the best way to live personally. So I think the best piece of content I've ever written is probably a piece actually about food. We just talked about how much money I spend on food, but one of the things that I constantly do is I'm looking for deals, right? So even though I spend a lot of money on food, I'm looking for deals. I have 2 kids, and so I'm constantly looking for the kids eat free deals. So I actually literally wrote a post on kids eat free, and that's the most popular post on the site right now. So people can come in, there's a whole list of different restaurants, whether it's Applebee's, IHOP, and they tell you know, I explain very specifically, okay, on Tuesdays you can go in and get a free meal if you buy, you know, one adult meal. And, you know, over time, if you're eating out as much as I do, it actually adds up. So I think right now that's the most valuable piece of content that I have available on the site. Separate from that, I just want to kind of put out there, there's another one that I'd say I'm proud of, and it's one about FIRE and FI, and what that concept is. And it's something that has become more popular recently. However, it's also not something that, you know, everyone knows about. So I really like sharing that idea with other people because it can affect so much of your life. I think one person that would be great for you to have on is my good friend Dustin Heiner. He's a fantastic real estate investor. He did everything from the ground up, and he's got a fascinating story of how he got laid off. And really in that moment of fear and indecision, he decided that he was never gonna let something like that ever happen again, and really taking action in his own hands. And ultimately using real estate as his vehicle to find financial independence. So these days, I get to work on a few different passion projects of mine. You know, first and foremost, I really love the whole FIRE, FI movement. And the reason why I love it so much is it's given me the freedom to do so much and be present with my family, pursue things, whether it's entrepreneurship, relationships, and different things. And so really now it's about giving back and helping other people on their path to FI. And ultimately, how does that look for them on a personal level? So I do financial coaching in that regard too, as well as giving them information through the blog. And then most recently, I started a podcast with a good buddy of mine, Marlon Smith, and we talk about, the podcast is called Breakthrough Millionaire. And on Breakthrough Millionaire, we talk about building wealth from within. And it's about building riches in all areas of your life, not just monetarily, but relationship-wise, spiritually, health-wise, and in all facets of your life. Because, you know, what's the point of having money if you don't have your health? What's the point of having money if you don't have the relationships? So how do you really do all of it simultaneously all at once? And they really kind of go hand in hand. So that's our passion on that podcast, is really teaching some of those principles, habits, and strategies, and ultimately getting in the right mindset to do that. So the best place you can find me is my blog at financiallyalert.com, and you can also find me at the podcast Breakthrough Millionaire, and you can find it on most podcast channels like Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, and all those good spots.
Thank you for watching. Share below what you thought. Subscribe to stay tuned. Lastly, stay legendary, and I'll see you in the next video.